Welcome, everybody, to the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. If you want to catch one of our live shows, our next live show is May 12th in Huntington Beach at the Rec Room. That's a stacked lineup. And our show after that is May 15th at Malo in Silver Lake. For more information on any of these shows, including the lineup, please check out our website, comedypopupla.com, and follow us on Instagram at comedypopup. All right. Let's start the show.
Hey, what's up, party people? This is comedian Ron G, and welcome to another episode of the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. Today is an amazing show. I have a personal friend of mine who I'm glad she even made time for me to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, I need y'all to start clapping. She's been the manager at the Laff Factory, the world-famous Laff Factory in Hollywood. She's the promoter, booker for Neal Brennan and Friends in Santa Monica. She has her own comedy production company called Mello Comedic. She was also the booker for Inside Jokes Comedy Club at the Groman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. She was also the booker for Comedy Juice in LA and New York. And she does booking and casting right now at this moment. Very proud of her. Ladies and gentlemen, my personal friend, show some love for Miss Sarah Mello. What's up, Mello? How you doing, boo?
Good, how are you?
Man, great to see you.
I know.
Let me tell you what you're not going to do. You're not going to be formal right now. You sound very formal right now. It's like, hi, everyone. Hi, what's going on? How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
So great to see you, man. So you always have a soft spot in my heart because I feel like along the way you meet really great people in your journey. Mm-hmm. And for me, I know I have a specific gift of seeing people's potential. And sometimes it's great in my career, but it's not good in my personal life because you can date somebody and see potential and they not see it and it becomes painful. But in my career, I see special things in people, and I'm learning that who I am in comedy means a lot. The weight of that means a lot to a lot of people. So for me, I remember we were in the parking lot of the Laff Factory. Was that Tiffany there too? Was that Tiffany Haddish?
I believe so.
It was Tiffany Haddish?
Yes.
Okay, so it was myself, Tiffany Haddish, and you. And we were sitting in the parking lot, and I'm like, you have access to all these great people. What are you doing with your life? Like, what is going on? Why are you just being a waitress or just being a hostess at the Laff Factory? Like, what are you doing? And you have access for a reason. Because I really felt like you had the heart and access of a lot of really dope comedians that I look up to. And it was like normal to you. Like, people like, oh, you hang up with so-and-so. And you're like, yeah, and? But, and I'm like, that's not normal. That's not normal to do that. And I said, you need to do something with that. Like, and I remember being very adamant because I feel like specifically God told me to tell you, like, you have a platform that's going to change this entire landscape of comedy. Do you remember that day?
I do. We had like a 2-hour conversation.
Yeah. In the back of the parking lot. Yeah.
Like it made me like, it did. It hit me.
Did it wake something up?
It did, definitely. I told you, I told a friend the other day, I brought a friend to, Chocolate Sundays. He was like, do you know him?
Was it the tall fella?
Yes.
Oh, he was like 6'13" and a half. He was super tall.
He's like 6'11". Yeah.
Yeah, you look too tall to laugh. Like, you should be dunking or something. Don't just look at me and laugh. It's weird.
Yeah.
That's dope. And so what changed? Like, was it an immediate transformation or was it like a slow agitation? Like, I know this, I can't sit in this comfortable place too long because I have to do something about it.
Yeah, I think for a while I was I was comfortable kind of where I was. It was a comfort thing. Mm-hmm. I started working at the Laff Factory as soon as I moved to LA. Yeah. So it was like family to me, even though there were a lot of things I disliked about the place. Yeah. I think it was so hard for me to leave my friends and family the way I looked at it. And I think I had that fear that I had to get over. And for a while I was doing a lot, producing and everything on the side. And then I think I just went through a phase of like, I knew I wanted to work in comedy, but didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I was stuck, I guess. Yeah. And it took, honestly, people like you and a few other people like that were like, what are you doing?
Like, why?
Yeah. And it makes you feel like, you start to realize like, what am I doing?
Yeah. And it's so funny. Like, you're the perfect example of preparation and opportunity meeting itself. Because I don't even think because sometimes along the way, you'll do jobs and things you're like, why the heck am I doing this? This is dumb. Yeah. And later on, you're like, oh, that's why I went through that particular lesson and reason. Because for you were like a baby. When I first met you, I felt like you was like fresh out of college, like just bright-eyed, super happy, everybody's friend. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Your face was red from staying up late last night. I'm like, okay. And then, but you're getting all this information about the comedy game that most people didn't take it in, because some people, like, when they like, especially waitresses, they're just trying to get these tips. But for you, I feel like you was taking it all in and learning about the craft while you're being prepared for this other thing. You know what I'm saying? And then being in position, it prepared you for. Like I can tell that you actually take it in because when I'm performing and I see a waitress laugh or they like or post up like looking at the show, I'm like, you're studying because I don't.
Yeah.
When a waitress say you're funny, like that means a lot to me because you see comedy all week long and you only come there to get the check and then you're making me like you're like, oh, you're hilarious. That means a lot to me. For you, did you even feel that like did you always have a passion for comedy even as a kid or it happened?
No.
While you were there.
I when I tell you, and some people don't believe this, like I didn't even know stand-up comedy existed. Never watched it. Like knew
where you from
nothing
again?
about it. Massachusetts.
Hilarious. Okay.
Yeah, and when I moved here,
I feel like the chicken is really dry in Massachusetts. I feel like they don't like seasoning for a chicken is not even a thing in Massachusetts. Or sweet tea.
Hilarious. Well, where I'm from, like a lot of people are all like immigrants. So where I'm from, there's just a lot of different nationalities. So our food's actually great, I think.
Okay, cool.
I'm
all
Portuguese, so.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Where I'm from, it's mostly Portuguese, Cape Verdean, Puerto Rican.
Yeah, a lot of Cape Verdean in that area. Yeah. That's why you got rhythm. I always wondered that. I'm like, you're like the coolest white girl ever, but you're Portuguese. I was wrong.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's dope, man. And so along the way, I always have this funny, like in my head, I just feel like you're like the phrase "a beautiful mess." That's what you say.
No,
Like
that's
I know it sounds bad, but like like one day I came out of the Laff Factory and it was just late at night, and I'm like walking out, and you like, oh my god, I lost the money, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And you lost a whole bag of money from some big name comedian.
It wasn't a big name comedian.
It wasn't.
It was a friend of mine who worked at the Laff Factory, but I had popped into the Laff Factory just literally for like 5 minutes to hang out.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who's actually he's a rapper, he came by and I hopped in his car for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Got out, went home, and the money was gone, and it was a lot of money.
The look on your face made it look like it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it was just I was killing time to go meet, and yeah, it was not a.
Didn't you still have the bag on you? Like you lost the money, but you had the bag or something?
No, well, it was in my purse.
Okay, yeah.
So it fell out of my purse.
Shoot.
I mean,
come on, Mello.
To this day, I don't know, but I will.
There's some happy homeless person on Sunset.
You know what? I will warn. I mean, a lot of people. That's not the only time. That like one time, another time, I had cashed a large check I was about to try. I had like $800 in cash on me. Went hiking. Someone broke in my car and took it. Like whenever I have large amounts of cash on me. Another time when I first moved to LA, I was robbed. All my cash. So.
Jesus.
Like, moral of the story, do not give me cash.
Right. You gotta Venmo her because she gonna lose it.
Me, yes. I never carry a lot of cash on me anymore.
Hilarious.
Because of that.
So question, from the time we had that conversation in the parking lot, to you starting your own and becoming the book, like honestly, one of the most sought after bookers in LA, what happened during that transition? What did you do differently? Because I feel like shortly after that, you were hosting like 6 different shows.
Yeah.
I mean, you were like promoting and booking 6 different shows. How did all that happen?
I guess it was a thing. Again, for a while, I was, afraid to leave. When I started booking inside jokes, like I was kind of, Neal Brennan referred me.
Yeah.
And I was like, again, it was scary because I had been at the Laff Factory for so long, and I, was kind of
what exactly was scary? Just leaving your friends and what else?
Yeah, leaving it. What it is like a family, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have this fear, like, what if I'm making this mistake, you know? So, but I did that.
But clearly, you're not like making 6 figures at the Laff Factory, so I don't know what you thought you were leaving.
I know. Yeah. But it was like this comfort. And then, I started doing that. And, honestly, several comedians started hitting me up, asking me to help them do shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the comedy club started asking me to do shows there. So I finally was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And it just so happened one day a comic, Matt Rife, and then the people from the Improv had both hit me up at the same time. Yeah. So I was like, hey, why don't we all meet together? Yeah. And, started that. And then, do you know DJ Trauma?
Yeah.
Okay, he had a talk with me like you had, and was like, same thing, like get your life together.
What do you do?
So I was like, okay, and he actually put my like LLC and everything together for me.
Yeah,
I was dope. Like, okay, like he was like, what do you want your company name to be? And I was like, oh, Mellow Comedic. And he did it. He set it up for me and was like, all right, let's do this. So for a while, he still is. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And even though I don't always like it when he's like pushes me to do things.
But you need people like that in your life. You need really dope people like that to push you and remind you like, okay, this ain't all fun and games.
Exactly.
This is a business.
Yep. And it's that's something I've been working on over the few years. Is like, having that confidence. There was also always the fear, putting a show together is not easy. And it's like, are people going to show up?
Yeah.
How's it going to go? And I guess you always have that like fear of failure that I had to get over. And now I'm like, hey, let's do this. It's gonna work or it's not. And if it doesn't, oh well. Like,
so getting over
another one.
So getting over the fear was basically just implementing and trying it.
Yeah, you just you literally just have to go do it. It's gonna work or it's not gonna work, and oh well, get through it. If it doesn't work,
right.
My bad.
So my question is, so for me, I've done shows where I like promoted and performed, and I was on suicide watch because show started at 9. People didn't show up till 9:30.
Yep.
And I'm like terrified, like, oh man, this is gonna look like, please don't post this because I'm gonna look like a failure. And then I have to get out my head and then perform too. And I'm basically on suicide watch from doing all this work. You were doing like 6 shows at one time, even in another state.
Yeah.
Like across the country. How is that possible to do all that and promote for all that stuff at the same time?
For a while, there were almost every Tuesday I would have 5 shows in a night.
How?
I would have New York, Irvine, and then I had 3 in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So I would,
all on the same night.
All on the same night.
And you had to book and promote all this stuff.
Yes, although I always have help with promotion.
Okay.
Because pretty much all I know are comedians. So,
is that Teflon?
He's great. He's one of my best friends.
Shout out to Ben Teflon.
Yeah, and he's my graphic designer. He does all my flyers. But Caduce helps me with promoting.
Shout out to Caduce too.
Yeah, Caduce is awesome.
Caduce.
He
That's the proper way to say his name. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's someone else that I really lean on, in comedy because same thing. He's really smart, knows a lot of people, knows talent.
Yeah.
I just, like you said, I'm a mess sometimes. So that's my thing is like trying to be organized and run 5 shows. And there are times I'd hit somebody up like, hey, don't forget. And there were a few times I had people show up to the wrong venue because they were like, oh, you know what? I saw on your Instagram you had a show here and I went there instead there. And things like that were kind of happening a lot. And that's when I realized and I just felt like I was doing shows for so many other people that it was like, okay, well, how is this profiting me?
Yeah.
So I was like, let me narrow it down and just focus on a few good shows for me also where I can do what I want to do rather than doing what other people want me to do.
Got you.
So that's when I was like, let me get rid of some of these and just focus on a few.
Okay. And so question, one thing I really admire about you is like I see and meet a lot of promoters, but most of the promoters I know only go to their show. And if I see them at another show, I feel like they're doing more research than like enjoying the show.
Yeah.
But I always see you at other shows. I'm like, what you doing here? Like, shouldn't you have a show tonight? You like, oh, well, we ended early. We ended on time, which has never happened in comedy ever, but we ended on time and I decided to stop by. What is that something that you pride yourself on or is just how your life is where you just out all the time?
I used to be out all the time, not so much anymore. So now if I go, I'm going to go.
Support somebody?
Yeah.
Like when I saw you Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing in the audience with the common folk?
Yeah.
With the peasants. This is freaking weird. She ordering nachos and drinks like freaking weird.
I wanted to go to support that night and that friend of mine, he's visiting. I mean, he's living in LA for 6 months. And he had asked me about the show and I was like, yeah, I love that show. Let's go.
Y'all got to come back. I love that show.
Yeah, he loved it. And he even said, he was like, man, whenever I'm having a bad day, I'm coming here.
Yeah.
He loved it. He loved you. And I
Who's
had
funny?
just saw.
Who's hilarious? Okay.
I was like, hey, let's go. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And it's funny, even that night, I took him and then brought him back home. And I was like, I text James. I was like, it's the same lineup. He was like, there's a different girl on the next show who I didn't know. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go back. So I went back trying to catch that other girl who I missed. But, it was still good. Still good to watch the rest of the show. I like to go, one, to support friends and to, sometimes when I'm running the show, I am so busy, I don't get to watch.
Right.
And I'm like, I realized like I feel like I used to know every comedian's set by heart, and I don't anymore. So I'm
you're not working at a comedy club anymore. When you're serving drinks, you second nature. You start hearing a song while it's playing. You like, oh, okay, on this playlist they're gonna play this next. Like you kind of know it, but yeah, I'm the same way. Like I try to listen to all comics, one, so I don't step on their material, and two, I just love comedy.
Yes,
I know everybody's set. And
sometimes it's strictly for my own ego. Like if somebody's like, who has that joke? If I don't have the answer to that, I'm like, oh.
That's so funny. I'm the same way because I don't know people. Like, I don't know people's names. But I'm like, tell me a joke, and I'm like, oh, and I'll finish the joke. I'm like, it's so and so. They're like, what? I'm like, yep, absolutely, man. Transitioning a little bit in the conversation. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast with the amazing booker, host, casting agent, and comedian. What's the word I want to say? Mogul. So transitioning a little bit, I know you do casting as well. I've actually came in the room for one of your projects, and it's so funny because I feel like I'm the same way. I see people in a certain element. Like I watch comedy not only for the jokes, but for the performance, and I'm like, based on their set, I can definitely see them doing that role. Yes. What about what you learned along the way helps you feel like helps you become a great person for casting?
I think one thing that's always helped me
being a judgmental woman. I'm just playing.
Yeah.
I'm just playing.
You know what is funny? Like back in high school, my high school boyfriend used to call me the critic all the time. That was his nickname for me.
That's hilarious.
And now I'm like, oh,
that is so funny. Right. Yeah.
No, but I think it's always helped me that not only do I, watch comedy and work in comedy, I get to know the comedians on a personal level.
Absolutely.
And I think that helps me when it comes to casting. A lot of jobs I've done, even, back in the day, I used to cast a lot of like commercials or, things like that, branded sketches. And I've never, for those, I never even held auditions. I just called who I knew could
do the role,
And the company, I was doing it on the side for a friend who was a director, and the company was like, oh, you did all these? And I was like, yeah. And they ended up hiring me. Yeah. Because they were amazed that like I didn't need to audition people. I just knew, and they all
You do know that's a gift, right?
I guess.
You guess? Like, but no, seriously, like that's a gift to be able to place people with certain things and like, okay, you need somebody who's a thug but still smart. Oh, okay. Yeah. Or you need a sensitive guy. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like, that's a gift that you have. And that's another one of those things where I tell you something and you like, oh, okay, I guess it is. Okay. Like, no, it's really special to have that gift as well. Also, I noticed that you work with a lot of bigger name comics. Those relationships you got, has it been more of a natural thing, or have you pursued them, or is it just like, oh, I just wound up in their space and they trust me?
Yeah, more natural, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess all different. Yeah, I honestly, in a weird way, I guess I feel like things fall in my lap, but I know at the same time that that's not true, that everything is happening for a reason.
It's called white privilege. I'm just playing.
Exactly. Portuguese privilege.
The people don't know that, but go ahead. Now they do.
Yeah, honestly, I think, like if I told you the story about how I met everyone, it was like, oh, like that. And it was like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Like Neal, me and Neal got close. He happened to be, he was newer to stand up and had just...
He was new.
Yeah.
Has he ever been new stand-up?
Neal worked at a comedy club back in the day. He was a door guy. Oh. And then he was always writing for comics. I think he just started stand-up like probably 12 years ago or something.
Oh, you know what? So after the show ended, and then is that when he started?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I thought he was like always doing comedy.
No. So he was out here working on the goods, and it was literally so simple as he forgot his scarf, like at the club. And I saw it and brought it. I was like, hey man, like chased him outside. I was like, you forgot your scarf. And we just started talking and became really good friends from there. And it was always just situations like that where I was just talking. I remember one person, I wasn't looking at him and he started talking to me, and I was like on the computer at work. They were filming a show at Laff Factory, and we had this full-blown conversation, and then he said something, and I was like, oh, what's your name? And I was like, oh. And, it just always kind of worked like that, or met them through other people outside, and it always became a friendship first. Yeah. And I think that's what it is. We were friends. I built their trust first, and then
yeah,
I think they
you probably didn't want anything
like,
from them because living in the city, it's all consumers and hey, can you hook me up with her? Hey, can you? And you probably didn't care about who they were, the credits.
I've never asked anybody for anything, and it's like if they asked me to do work for them, okay, great, but I never asked them.
I think I feel some kind of way about Neal having a scarf in L.A. Like that says something about him to have a scarf in L.A.
If you look back around that time, he always was wearing a scarf. Like that was his thing.
A scarf in L.A.
Yeah.
It's never cold enough for a scarf, but we'll take it. Freaking Neal, you're hilarious, man.
But yeah, no, it all... And I will say, it then got to a point where if I would meet a comic and they knew, oh, she's close with this guy, and this guy, she's got to be cool type thing. Of
course,
you know what I'm saying? It was like, if he trusts her, I trust her.
That's a stamp.
So that helped. Like even a lot of these comics I met through booking Neal's show.
Of course.
So it was like when Neal gave me these people's number and was like, hey, reach out to them. Here you go. Or some of them, Neal gave them my number and they reached out to me like, can I do your show? And it was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think when you have the stamp of approval from a few of these guys, other people are like, well, if they work with her, there's something there.
Yeah. So is it scary at all to have the trust of all these people and not know what's the word I want to use? Like, so you have these people that, like, the people that are around you are, like, so amazed, like, you're cool with this person. But to you, it's just another day at work. But is it, like, another unspoken level of pressure that comes along with representing and helping these people out that you had to deal with as well? Or you got over that, too?
I don't think I ever
thought about
that. No.
Right. So the easy stuff is hard and the hard stuff is easy.
Yeah, I guess. I think it's a thing, and that's, I guess, something I have to thank my mom for, that my mom, since I was a kid, was like, treat everybody the same type thing. Yeah. So maybe, and some of these guys probably don't like it, that I'm like, I don't put them on a pedestal.
Right,
so
right.
I talk to them the way I would talk to anybody.
I don't care if you got a Netflix special. I don't care. Get out of my face.
There are some, I'll admit, I've gotten into some, heated debates with some of them, and some of the people are like, oh, did you just say that to him? And I'm like, well, he shouldn't have did this. Or
I like people like that. You need some people like that in your life.
You do, yeah. And I think that is the thing, a lot of people in this industry get, once they hit a level, they get surrounded by yes men, and I'm like, not me. And I don't know. Yeah,
so for the comics that are listening now, I'm sure it's a few of them. They can't wait. Do you give out your social media so they can hit you up? But are you ever impressed by comedy now because you're around it so much? Or you still like love it to where you're like, oh, that was funny, that was fresh idea? Or is it like, oh, because like even now, I rarely laugh at a comedy show. I'm like, hilarious.
Yeah.
Hysterical. Like I'm laughing on the inside, but I don't even, unless it's like super brilliant. Like, what are some of the things on stage that turn you on and be like, oh man, that's dope. I need to get him on one of my shows.
Originality, I guess. But yeah, I'm the same way. I might not laugh out loud so much, but in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, that was good. So yeah, I just,
because even though you're my friend, I still want that little bit of approval. And when you don't say stuff, I'm like, maybe I'm not funny. But now when I first start, when you first became a booker, I was like that. Now I don't care. Like I know I'm funny, and if you don't laugh at me, something's wrong with you. Like you're broken on the inside and you have sewage in your soul.
Yeah.
But you can't stop me now. But I'm like, there's a little bit of, Sarah didn't say nothing. I guess, hey, how you doing? Good to see you too. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? And that's something I've realized I have to work, because I had one night I was, hanging out with two of my good friends that are comics, and they just started like asking me all this, and then finally like they were like, oh, you don't think we're funny? And I was like, yes, I do. Like I'm not good at expressing myself, I feel like. And they were going in on me, and then I finally was like, do you think I would be booking you on my shows if I didn't think you were funny? Mm-hmm. And they were even like, I guess you're right. And then I realized some of my best friends, I'm around them so much that I forget to book them on my shows.
Right.
Because I'm not even real, and I'm like, oh my God, he hasn't done my show in a year. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think
that's the life of a casting director. I feel like if you date a casting director, you don't know how they feel. And they're like, all right, thank you. Next. You're like, I just poured my heart out and took you on a date. I need some kind of validation. I mean, what you did was great in the room. But thank you. We'll stay in touch. Like,
yeah, I'll keep you posted.
So I didn't get the role? Like, no, you're not my boyfriend. Fudge.
I actually have had guys I've dated say that. They're like, you don't appreciate anything. And they're like, I do all these things for you, don't say anything. I'm like,
that's so funny. It makes you perfect for casting. We never know how you feel. You got the stone face and like, okay, thank you very much. All right, bye-bye. Love you. Love you. Bye-bye. Changing gears a little bit. Is it ever weird? Because I know for myself, hosting at the Laff Factory, I didn't realize how many people hate me. And comedians tell me like, man, people hate you. I'm like, I've never done anything to them. They're like, yeah, but they want your spot. But they never tell me because they still want to get on. For you, do you have this unspoken thing of people trying to befriend you, knowing they want something, and you have to filter through that?
Yeah. How
do you come through that?
You know, that's something I picked up back in the day. Mm-hmm. And I remembered watching this one girl get a certain position, and I saw it, and it was like, this one's my friend, and this one's my friend. And I told her, like, leave that job and see if he's still calling you to go to lunch. And, she did not like when I said that to her.
Of course.
And then it happened and it hurt her. But that was something I picked up right from the beginning. But I'm like, I also know a lot of people, they're not doing it like purposely. Like they're not maliciously trying to be someone's friend. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes it's like, oh, this person's around and they're in that position. You see them, you start hitting them up or hanging out with them more and stuff. So it's...
You're so kind-hearted.
Yeah.
I always feel like people are up to something. I never not think they're up to something. When the comments like, hey, man, let me get your number so we can hang out. I'm like, you don't want to be my friend.
That is something that I used to be, I feel like, way too much of a people pleaser.
Yeah.
So I would go, even if I didn't have the time, like I would go do it. And yeah, there are now some comics that like, hey, let's go do this, let's go do that. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
I don't have the time for it. And, you weren't my friend. Like, I didn't know you by a certain time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
but
funny.
now, and I do. Sometimes it's like, they don't really want to hang out with me. They just want to go hang out with me, so I'll book them on my shows.
Absolutely.
So it's just like, sorry.
Have you become a dick in that area? Like, look, what's up? Like, you ever ask them? I
toughened up a little. And again, like, used to be more like, I don't want people to not like me. And then I realized I got in that position where people don't like me because if I don't book them. And I had some people that would like even like kind of yell at me for it. And it was like, I was like, okay, I don't book you on my shows, but I actually just submitted you for a TV show yesterday. Like,
so, I'm not mad anymore.
Yeah. So that's something I try to tell people, like, don't like hate on somebody for not casting you or booking you or whatever, because you don't know what else they're doing for you that you might not see.
Absolutely.
Which is why I think it does help me that even though I book shows around town, I also do like casting and other positions where I'm able to call people in for auditions or meetings that then they see like, oh, she does like me. It's not, it was nothing personal type thing.
Yeah, but I always get on young comics about that anyway. I'm like, no one person is the gatekeeper to your dreams. So
keep and that's another thing I tell people, like, especially before I was in a position when I was booking for Comedy Juice and stuff, where they were really tough on me about who I was booking. So it wasn't even all up to me. Yeah. So, and I tell people like, and I used to tell people when I worked at the Laff Factory and they were like, how do I get in? How do I get in? I used to, when I was young, I was like trying to help everybody get in.
Yeah.
And then I remember one day I just like snapped on this one comic and I was like, why do you care so much? I was like, just go get on any stage you can get on and get funny to the fact that Laff Factory calling you to go there. And he was like, all right. And now I'm, even with I tell comics like,
did he do it?
Yeah. He's great.
Good.
And he took it well. He was like, yeah, you're right. Like he was like, why am I putting so much pressure on this one club type thing? Sorry.
Yeah, you good.
I did have a comic recently that worded things in a way to me that made me be like, oh man, I wasn't looking at it like that. I do think I am one of the few bookers in town who book like really diverse lineups.
Mm-hmm.
And
one of the few. And hey, look, a black person. Oh, that's a Mexican. During the middle of a week, and it's not refried. Taco Tuesdays? Oh my God.
And
gotta go to this one.
The comic said something, and he said, Sarah, that's why. He said, Sarah, if you don't return one of our calls or texts, or if you don't call us back to be on one of your show, he was like, it literally crushes us because you're one of the few people that has been helping us out.
Absolutely.
And I'm not gonna lie, like that really, when he said that, like I was like, oh man, I never looked at it like that. And I always tell people like, man, if I don't hit you back, it's just I may have been driving and forgot. So for me, it's something like I'm not even thinking about, and I didn't realize like other people are putting so much on it.
But that's why I said you have a power that you don't even know. Like even myself, I don't realize how big my voice is, because I told this comedian the other day, and I was like, bro, like you got to change your hustle up a little bit. You always perform south of Wilshire, a place where nobody, not necessarily no industry comes, but I'm like, it's cool, but you're doing all these own, and I know you're trying to make your own money, and I get that, but you got to perform all over the city so people know your name. And I said, I'm your friend, and if you need me to help you out or introduce you, I'll do that. You know what I'm saying? Because you're my friend. You know what I'm saying? And the look on his face, he looked like he was about to cry, and I'm like, because he looked like finally somebody want to help me, and I'm like, well, you're my friend. Sometimes you just have to be humble and ask. Like, I'm again, I have this thing, this eye. I see people. I'm like, I see you clearly, but I don't think nobody's seen him clearly. So for me saying that to him, I can tell there was like a weight lifted off his shoulder. He's like, man, I'll hit you up, man. Just thank you for even reaching out. And I was like, yo, it's cool. Like, you're my friend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But comedians too, sometimes we feel like we have to take the tough road to prove something to ourselves. I'm like, no, this business is all relationship.
Right.
Like it is all. And please know, as you're on the show, I'm going to ask you, Mello, you've been on my show. I need to be on one of your shows soon. I need to be the black guy on one of your shows soon.
It was funny. I even realized the other day when I was watching you, because I don't know if you remember, for a while, like me and Neal's show was on Sundays. And remember, we would always try to work it out. But our show was... Me and Neal's show was at 9:00 on Sundays, and Chocolate Sundays was 8 and 10.
Yeah, then we changed
So we would always try and work it out, but it would be like, how are you? You can't do it.
Yeah.
And we moved to Tuesdays. So the other night when I was watching you, I was like, oh my God, he could do our show
funny.
now.
Yeah, dope. And I personally, just as if you're listening, you're a comic, man. Just always, don't be afraid to perform for crowds that don't look like you. Like for me, that's always been one of my things, because I came up in basically urban rooms, and then I came to LA and I had to learn how to expand my voice. And now that I'm doing that, because even Sunday is a very diverse crowd, it's still a certain type of crowd that I'm kind of comfortable with now, because it's like young, cool, you know, the generation that don't really care about racism.
Yeah.
Like it's that crowd. And then sometimes I'll go like further south or like to another club that's like Pasadena, and it's like all white people who don't have black friends, and I got to perform for them. So I got to change my jokes up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And it's a weird transition, because I know that's not my crowd, but the art is always learn how to perform in any kind of crowd, no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So one thing I've noticed about your shows too, I feel like you have tiers of comics based on your shows. Because you have certain shows that's like all headliners, and if I don't get on, I completely understand, because it's like all like we need people butts in the seats kind of show. Like all big name.
This is a business.
Yeah.
I gotta make my money back.
And then you have shows that are like another tier, which is like, oh, okay, I can definitely be on this show. Like I know that. Because I feel like that's the one that comedians hold on to. It's like, if I have a choice to get on that show, or if I have a chance, it would be that show versus the other one. Because if you got all A-list, big name, surprise, special celebrity guest shows, if I don't get on, I completely understand. Is that something you pride yourself on, or is just business and that's just how it is?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, again, the whole reason I got into this, you know, working at Laff Factory, I just became close with a lot of comedians.
Yeah.
So my thing has always just been wanting to help comedians.
Yeah.
So if I can provide a place for stage time to help my friends, let's do it. So I got into this really wanting to help people get to the next level. But again, it is LA, it is a business. And when I hit people up to come to my show, they're like, well, who's on the show?
Right.
Which is something I wish I had like a magic formula to be like, just come to the show.
Right. Because it's never bad.
Yeah. So
did you do like a secret show a while back where nobody knew who the lineup was? But it was like all hot or something?
That was a surprise. It was actually just Dave was shooting his special. So we were, So that's why it was called the secret show. That's
still a great idea though.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to take that while we're listening right now. But it was just a really dope lineup, and nobody knew who it was.
Yeah. I think there is somebody else who calls their show that, but they do say who the lineup is. I don't know. But
it's a secret comedy show, but Dave will be there, but it's a secret comedy show. You're like, what?
Yeah, no, it was a thing where Dave was shooting his special over the course of 9 shows. He just came up with the idea and was like, I want to shoot this special. Dave Chappelle, I don't even know if I said that.
Right.
I want to, and he was
That's
like,
how cool she is with Dave. She's calling Dave and we're supposed to know who it is.
It was like, I'm going to do, I think it started as 6 shows or 8 shows or whatever it was. Yeah, I think because he ended up adding some shows the day of where I wanted to kill him for that.
Yeah.
But it was like, hey, yeah, we're going to do these shows. We're just going to promote them as your shows. Fill it with this type of crowd.
Yeah.
Don't tell people who it is. And it was like, okay. Like they called me on a Monday and were like, what are you doing this week?
But you don't realize how big that is though. Like it's you saying it like it's just, oh, it's a Tuesday. Dave called me and asked me to put on 8 shows. Like that's so uncommon. I know.
And I had other shows that week.
Of course.
So now it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then they had me book two openers for each show that I could promote. So it was like, okay. And yeah.
Didn't you put me on the show at the Palladium too?
Yes.
That was so funny.
That was last, August?
Yeah.
Or something? Yep.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that. Yeah.
I did too.
He was like, Ron, what you doing Tuesday? I was like, cool. Can you host this radio show? And I'm like, how much is it?
Yeah.
I was like, what about this amount? He was like, okay. Give me, I'll call you back.
Yeah.
All right, we got it. Can you be there?
We did get you right.
We did, absolutely. That was just so random and cool. And I was like, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Dope. Another thing I've always admired about you is like your range of friends. When I tell you, I like one day I can see you hanging out with Crips and Bloods. Then it'll be like an NBA player. And then it'll be like a rapper. And then it'll be like Neal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you... Your range of friends goes from Boys in the Hood, freaking Chappelle Show, to Everybody Loves Raymond. Like, it's just everybody. How does that happen? My range of friends don't even... I got like 2 white friends.
Really?
And the only problem is just because our lives... We're so busy we don't have time to connect. And the rest of them are black. And a few... Like, Paul's my Mexican buddy.
That's so
Hey,
funny.
Paul, you can get a button or something? Thank you, Paul. It's my Mexican friend. That was a Mexican clap. Go ahead. All right. How do you... Got a little Cheeto dust on your fingertips. All right, cool.
A couple of my friends joke, and they're like, if Sarah asks you to hang out, or if she says, hey, can my friend come, ask her who. Because they're like, we never know what we're getting with you. I had that is another thing where I will say there are people where I realize, oh, they're just trying to hang out with me so that they can hang out with this person that's,
Yeah.
Which that's something I have to be very careful about now. I feel like it's like, oh, are you trying to hang out with me, or I hang out with this person?
Yeah. I'm like, Mello, no Gucci man? How you just hanging out with Gucci man on a Tuesday? Yeah, I lost his money. You lost his money? Is he at a concert down the street?
So funny. I remember I brought this one girl and I knew she was doing that, and I brought her. It was just, we were doing like Filipino karaoke. And she showed up and she was just sitting there, and I was like, I told her, I said, one day when you're hanging out with me, you might be at a mansion in the hills. I said, the other day, you're doing karaoke.
Jeez, that's funny.
You just don't know what you're going to get. And I don't know. I plan a million things in one day and go with the flow and pick which ones I'm going to do.
All right.
But I think I just...
So how the heck do you have time to date? Because you're around all... If a guy likes you, you're hanging out with his heroes. And that's a little hard to comb through, because for the rest of his life, he's going to be Mello's boyfriend. Doesn't matter what his name is. Like, my name is James. Like, no, you're not. You're Mello's boyfriend. That's your name for the rest of your life. And that intimidation of she's hanging out with my heroes. How do you comfort a man?
I'm not good at it.
Yeah?
I'm bad. I was actually talking to comics about it last night. I've had guys when they call me up and say, hey, where are you? And I'm like, oh, so-and-so's house. They've hung up on me. Yeah. Or I realized one guy who was in the industry, and I thought he is doing very well.
Yeah.
But I do have to realize that, like, oh yeah, he's looking up to these people. So I brought him to a couple of places, and then I think it like hurt his ego. Yeah. That like more people were coming up to me than him, and it was like, and he didn't like it. And a lot of guys are just like, they especially don't want to be around my comedy shows because they're like, all these comics are on you and they're trying to get on your shows.
Yeah.
Like,
But I feel like all your friends are men. Like, only time you didn't have a lot of men friends was when you worked at the Laff Factory and y'all went out as a community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I still hang out with all those girls, yeah.
Which is so cool. But how the heck you comfort a man in his ego to be like, oh, okay, that's just my boo at work?
Oh, I'm not good at it. I'm really not good at it. But I think that's such a funny thing that I almost have fun with, that when I'm out with my friends, you know, I pretty much am always going to show up with a guy, and then I can always see them trying to figure out, like, is that just a friend? Or is this someone she's seen?
You know, I say your range of friends is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't know you, like, because I know you now, I'm like, oh, that's just one of her friends. But yeah. I don't think you probably look weird if you came there with a guy who's romantic, because you can't have your normal flow. You know what I'm saying? Because for some reason, when people with their person, like, it's girls I know and I'm cool with, when they're with their person, they don't even speak to me. And I'm like, I'd never wanted anything from you. Why are you not speaking to me? Because he's here.
No, that's one that I definitely don't do that, because one, I think that makes you look suspicious.
Yep.
Because I've had that happen with guys, to all of a sudden they're with a girl and then they see me and they act away. And I'm like, we're just cool. But now that you just acted weird, now that girl's going to think there's something between us, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm always very cool, and I do always let guys know, like, you know, right off the bat, like, hey, I grew up with two brothers. I've always had a lot of guy friends. These are my really good friends.
But you know that's not normal, right? The life you chose is not normal. So that's a tough pill to swallow for any man.
Yeah. But again, even growing up as a kid, my two best friends were guys.
Yeah.
So that was something, like, even in high school, it was like,
Poor
hey,
guy.
you got to be cool with him, or
poor guy.
It's not going to work.
I don't even know the fella. Poor guy. Oh, man. It's okay, Tugga. All right. Oh, Tugga. Hilarious, man. Yeah, because even being, like, the life that we chose is not for everybody. And you are literally married to the game. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. Because for my life as well, comedy's my first love. I don't care who I date, who I marry. Like, this is my livelihood. This is how I eat. And there's a lot that comes along with it. The fact that I don't go to work until 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. And I might not get home till 1. And I know comic gets off stage and goes straight home. But 9-to-5ers think, oh, well, you get off stage, you come straight home. Like, that doesn't happen. Unless we have date night planned and I say I'm going to be home by a certain time. Other than that, like, it's cool. And there's so many variables that come along with a comedy show that you can't control. Like, my girl got mad at me because I was doing like a birthday party at a restaurant, and I don't perform when food is being served. That's my thing. I don't perform, and I say I'll be home by like 8. Things started at 7. Food hadn't came out yet, and I'm all right. When the food is served, then I'll perform. And so I didn't get to her house at 9, and she was mad. She's like, "You say you're gonna come straight home? You always hanging out?" And I'm like, "Yo, like, first of all, we don't do that. We don't do that. Like, this is my life, and if I told you I'm gonna do something, I call you and checked on you, and you didn't reply. You know what I'm saying? So that's not my fault, but I'm giving you a heads up. Like, I don't perform when food's being served. So there's so many variables, and especially you being a girl around all these heroes, and the show started late, lights go out. Sound guy don't show up, something stupid happens, and you got to explain that to somebody who's like been waiting all day to spend time with you. Yeah, because every day is something different. Yeah. Good luck,
and
Sarah Mello.
Yeah, when they call, like, where are you? And it's like 3, 4 in the morning. And I'm always honest. Because
honesty don't mean nothing. I don't care. You got to manage fears. That's what love is about. You got to manage these fears.
One thing I've dealt with that, to me, I'm like, okay, I'm over this. I will start seeing a guy, and then when they find out, like, when they first was like, oh, I do this, they're like, no, okay. But then when they do start coming around me and seeing, like, I remember this one guy was like, yo, when I saw the way, like, you were talking to this guy and the way he was, like, listening to you, and this guy, like, they were like, he was like, they really respect you. And he had one of his clients with him that was like, yo, that girl, like, the way people move around her says something. And it becomes this thing where some of the guys have then, it's like they don't want to date me anymore. They want me to help them with their business or their contacts. And I'm like, all right. But I think it's the same thing. I'm more like you. Like, I don't really care about dating. Like, I'm more about my career. Yeah. So my career and my friends.
Comedy's first, but I do believe you can do both at the same time.
Oh, for sure.
It just takes a special person. For you, the guy who marries you, his life is going to be amazing, but he don't know it yet. Yeah. And he got to get over his own pride, ego. Fear, and get out the way in order to have, because y'all can legit be a power couple depending on what he does. You know what I'm saying? But he has to see it.
I think it was me and you had this talk at one of my shows where you said something that I was like, oh, I never thought of that. And you said I should find an only child. Somebody, you were like, he was like, you said,
that sounds like something I would say.
Yeah, you were like, you're so busy that you have to find a guy who's okay, that doesn't need as much attention and can entertain himself. And I had never looked at it like that.
Yeah,
and
middle child or baby, but preferably baby, because middle child could be either way. Baby's normally really good at being by themselves.
Okay.
Like I'm the baby.
Me too.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of used to, I could be around 1,000 people and nobody. I'm having a ball. That's just what I do.
Yeah, that's what I realized. I need someone who either doesn't require a lot of attention and or doesn't have a huge ego. Yeah,
and you're like the perfect leader too, because some leaders lead by muscle and threatening. You're the leader who leads by love. And that's one thing I always admired about you. Like you're still soft, and however your parents raised you, like you still have a bit of that even when you do business. Because most of the time in this business, people are dicks and they feel like they have to be a dick to function in here. It's almost like, I call it pretty girl syndrome, where most pretty girls in LA, they got to be mean, sarcastic, whatever, to be a one layer of defense from the people trying to attack them and get at them. So they got to be something else versus like just a genuine person, which they think they're being genuine, but you become a little bit of something in order to function out here. But you are genuinely always the same person every time I see you. I don't have to guess how you're going to be if you're going to speak to me. Your worst day, I see you crying, tears in your eyes, I lost the bag, drunk. Like, doesn't matter. Like, you're always the same person with me, and I really admire that. How do you stay connected and grounded even while you're doing all this stuff?
I don't know. I think it's a thing. I remember when I first moved to LA, I think I like held a door for someone and they were like, oh, you must be new to LA. I was like, yeah. And they were like, I'll give it another month or whatever. And I'm like, 11 years in, I'm still holding doors.
Right. For men, which is weird, but it's okay.
I one time had a comic that like, I think from my Mello comedic account was they followed, and somebody else runs that for me. And they wrote back like, thanks for the follow, but you were rude when I met you. Yeah. And I was like, really? Me? No. And I was like, I had never seen this person before. And I said, you know, I don't think I've ever seen you before. I said, the only thing I can think of, I said I was probably mid running a show, like running around trying to find a comic when you approached me. And I said, I'm sorry if you took it the wrong way. And he like deleted his comment and everything.
But you're so like, nice that the fact you'd even want to explain yourself.
Right.
That's my heart too. Like this girl said, like, you're so arrogant. And I'm like, arrogant? Like, I speak to everybody. I was raised right. And if I'm not, it's because I'm either in my head or I'm dealing with something.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm never not nice to people. Like, not on purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like, wow, this is just the way I was raised, and that's why
but the fact you care. You care enough to be like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, she's like, man, F you.
Yeah. But again, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly it. I care. I'm like, people are people. We're all sensitive. We're all insecure.
Yeah.
Just be nice to everybody.
But they ain't sensitive like comedians, though.
No.
Ain't nothing more fragile than a comedian who is either trying to get on or used to be on.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How do you deal with that? Because that's the highest form of babysitting. Like, how do you manage flowing in this world, being a powerful woman and learning how to talk to fragile men who don't always process. Like, you see us in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Versus how we see ourselves. Like even though, again, like I said, I would want you to validate my set, even though it's an unspoken thing when I first kind of saw you promoting, and you didn't do it, but there's this conversation I had with myself like, man, she don't think I'm funny. What is going on? But you're around people like that with higher and more success, and it's still fragile. I know for a fact most comedians that I meet, even the most successful ones, you like, wow, you have the same, like you're fragile too. How do you navigate through all that without bruising egos and worrying about your position while you have those conversations? And challenging them in those conversations, like you said you had. It was y'all had a debate and y'all went back and forth, and you could have crushed them because you probably know more than the average person. How do you navigate through that?
And I did.
And you did crush? Oh, you did? Oh, excuse me. I take that back. That's hilarious.
I did, and that situation is different than how I would handle most, but me and this person are at that level that, again, I knew, you know what, nobody else is going to say this to him.
Ooh.
And I just hit my point where, like, I was having a day, and like, you know what? Here you go. I said stuff that was like, well, Sarah, you can't take that back.
Yeah.
But I felt like he needed to hear it. And I felt like I'm never going to get through to this guy. I can't get through to him.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to say all this. And even if he just absorbs 2% of it, I'll feel like I accomplished something.
Sometimes you got to say that.
And it was like a huge thing.
Yeah.
And we left, and I was so upset. And when I tell you, like, less than 2 minutes later, I got like this long text from him.
Yeah.
To where I was like, oh, he pulled out of the parking lot and like pulled right over to write this text.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know what? I heard what you said, and said like all this stuff back to me that I was like, oh, wow, I did get through to him a little bit, but then I had to like hold my own. So I had to still play it tough. Like, oh yeah. Well, kept it going.
You should have just put K.
K.
He texted you 6 pages.
I wrote back, bye.
Bye.
Just say his name was Ron. Bye, Ron.
Right.
But no, for the most part, again, I think it's something, I love like psychology and stuff. It's something I've always loved and I always read about. So again, I think empathy, it's just like I understand where these people are coming from. And in life in general, I always try to see things from my side and another person's side. So whenever I'm talking to somebody, I listen. And so I might be like, why did you do that? Like, why didn't you take that photo with that person who asked you to take a photo?
Yeah.
And I let them explain it. And then I'm like, okay, even if I don't agree with it, I'll understand why or whatever. So it's something that frustrates me, the egos and the sensitivity. And again, real battle last night was like, Sarah, you have to realize you're different and you might not be super sensitive to where other people are, and you have to understand it. So I think even though I'm not like, I'm like, oh, why are you being so sensitive?
Yeah.
I understand it in a way, so I'm empathetic about it.
It's so funny because if we say that to y'all, let me tell you something. All the raft and hell will land upon our shoulders. You're like, why are you being so sensitive? You can never say that to a woman, but you can say that to a man, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I don't usually say that, but I'm thinking it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just something where
we're artists,
I just know it comes along with my job, and trust me, I get calls every day.
It's hard to navigate through
comics, and it's just like, hey, let me do what I can do, and or just let people know I'm there for you if you need it. Thing, you know.
Yeah. And so I'll ask you this last question, and we can wrap up the show. So another thing I've always admired about you is I always feel like you work on personal growth. Like, because I don't small talk with people, and I want to know how people are really doing. And I don't know if they think I'm trying to be funny, but I legit like care about people's heart and their journey while they're going through it.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's important to me, because nobody really asked me how I'm doing, because I guess based on how my life looked, they're like, oh, you're amazing. But I value personal growth, and I always want to work on myself. I always want to be a better person, because in the end, you can get the success you want, but if you haven't done the work, it's really hard to sustain it, because you're going to crash, because you haven't made time to live, breathe, come up with processes to secure and curate your life to where you can sustain a blow. Like a heavy blow, meaning like death, something coming out about your career that, you know, whatever, having a relationship. Like, but I've noticed you along the way, every time we talk, you mention you're working on something.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, I'm working on keeping my car clean. I'm working on making time to sleep. I'm working on trying to date now. I'm working on, which is really dope, because some people just focus on comedy. Like that's their life and that's what it is. But again, once you get to that certain level of success, it's still not going to be enough, because you didn't do the work to sustain it. Because it takes a lot of character. Like this process of comedy is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
Just from the levels of rejection you go through, not being seen clearly, people not knowing what box to put you in. Like I'm a clean black comedian. They don't know what to do with me. And then you get the success and you become a dick. And they're like, why are you becoming a dick? Like you were such a nice guy and now you get on, but now you want to piss on everybody who's done you wrong. And again, you haven't processed and done the work in the meantime. What keeps you in that space of always trying to work on yourself?
Again, I think it's just something I've kind of always done. But
is that self-check? Is that self-check, or is that like, this don't feel right and this is not working based on where I am? So, and I know when I get to this level, this process right now is not going to work, so let me fix this. Or somebody's like, Mello, look, you got to slow down. You're doing too much.
You know, for years, actually, like Whitney Cummings, Kevin Christie, and Neal Brennan were like, you're codependent. You need to go to Al-Anon, do this, do that. And I would think David Allen Greer. It's people who are codependent. If you grew up around like drug addicts or anything, that's like just how you kind of change your life. So you become a fixer. You always try to fix and help everybody around you.
Attachments.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, people used to tell me that, and I was like, no. Like always kind of ignored them or like would do. But I've always read self-help books. Like I'm always reading a self-help book if you ever know me.
What you reading right now?
The Celestine Prophecy.
Okay.
And I love it.
Okay.
Like 20 pages to go. This book has helped me. And a few months ago, I read a book called Attached. And out of all the books I've read, I also like The War of Art. The Celestine Prophecy and Attached have helped me the most. But yeah, I think I hit a point, same thing, you deal with deaths and your life just goes different ways.
Right.
So I years ago I was dating a guy who was murdered, and I realized from
while you were dating him,
I had just started seeing him, and that was when my life kind of spiraled for a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And actually, what I did was I was like, hey, you got to snap out of it. I started working with Pookie. So I was an assistant for a while, just to keep myself busy. I was working with him, Laff Factory. And then for years, I just felt like I knew I was messed. I'd like got depressed, like gained weight, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then, like a year ago, something else happened that showed me like, oh, like some personal stuff. You're really codependent. You need to snap out of it and get help. And then Charlie's death hit me hard.
Yeah.
And that was when it was like, hey, you got to make some changes. And last year, again, I was running 15 shows. And I had, at all times, I would have 300 unread text messages. And it was just like throughout the year, my anxiety.
That sounds like anxiety.
Yeah, it was just like, imagine like every time you wake up, it's just like, oh, you have all this. You don't even want to look at my unwritten email. So right after, all year, I was like, I'm quitting too. So I'm quitting this, I'm quitting that. And I wasn't. And it was right after we shot Dave's special. I was like, boom, quit Comedy Juice, quit this show, quit that show.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm only going to do my things. And then, I just realized like, I also have a joke. Any comedian that has slept on my couch and stayed with me is now on TV.
Right.
And I hit a point where I realized, Sarah, like I was looking at all of the comedians' lives I've changed to where like, oh, they were able to quit their other job to do comedy full time because I did this for them or that for them. And I hit a point where it was like, oh, wow, you've helped all these people. And I knew I could have done more for myself, So I hit a place where I was like, okay, Sarah, you got to start doing more for yourself and other people. And that's when I realized running 15 shows is helping a lot of other people, but I'm not really doing what I want to do.
At what cost, So what are you doing now? What are you doing now to help Mello's life be better, personal life being better?
I did ayahuasca twice.
You
Same
what?
thing, ayahuasca. I did ayahuasca. It's like...
What is that?
It's a plant, and it's a psychedelic, and it's supposed to be like doing 10 years of therapy overnight. So I've actually done it twice within the past few months. No, it's from like, I don't know, Peru or something.
Paul, you know about that? Yeah, have you done it?
No, but I know about it.
You will do it?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it.
You look really excited about whatever it is.
I've done a lot of shit.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's
like, what, does it make you feel high and you boo-boo at the same time and you sneeze at
you throw up.
your pain?
You can throw up. The first time, the second time I didn't.
It's like Reiki or something? Like a plant Reiki or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's a plant and it's a psychedelic. So you just trip out for overnight and then you do something else in the morning. And it's scary, but it literally, it works. Like, it's helped. And then I went and did it again. And the second time was worse. But then it's helping you in the positive, because it's a plant. It actually heals you. And then so I took a couple months off to where you've noticed I've done way less shows.
Yeah.
And was just working on myself a lot.
Yeah.
And then but still doing my other things on the side. I'm helping some comics package like TV shows together.
Yeah.
Then I was casting a show I just finished on Friday. Yeah. Working on a business plan. So just things like that.
So
and
cool.
Then, had to get myself in the right mind space and figure out exactly what I want to do. So now I've kind of aligned all that, and now I'm going for those things.
Yeah. So even though you're in the middle of your dream, like it's happening and you're in it right now, what advice would you give somebody who literally like loves comedy and wants to start promoting without giving away all your secrets?
I want to start promoting.
Or becoming who you are. Because like you're so many different things. I want to say you're a promoter, but you're not just a promoter. Like you're so much
I know.
stuff.
Actually, when people call me for promoting, I'm like, oh, that's where I always need help, and I have to hire other people.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. I think again, it's just it's like, hey, you just got to do it and not be so hard on yourself if it doesn't work, because you're gonna have shows that are not well, whether you don't have a crowd or the crowd's not good or. I've had shows with killer lineups that just didn't go over well. Like the energy was off, and and you just and it was a show that I had invited really important industry out to see, and it was like, oh no, they're really good. I promise. You know,
that's not a host issue. I feel like the host set the tone for all that.
You know, that was part of the issue. It was me. It was like a little
gotta have
thing.
A good energy host.
Before the host, they showed up in a mood late, and so we kind of had a couple words.
Pissed on the crowd, yeah.
And then it was like, hey man, this is it. And then you're right. It sets the tone. It sets the energy.
I know these things. I do comedy too.
But yeah, I think it's just like, you just got to do it. And relationships. I've had, a lot of people do come to me for advice or ask to like me to mentor them, and I tell them, smile, be nice to people.
Jeez.
And it's off relationships, and you can't screw people over because you don't know where that person's going to be later. It could come back to hurt you
tomorrow.
Yeah,
man, that's so funny. I tell a lot of young comics that they'd be mad at me like, so and so won't put me up. I'm like, you should just smile.
Yeah.
You come in here angry, you got your back home energy don't work in LA.
Yeah, you
got to be nice and at least play the part. If you hate people and you don't like being around people, you still have to smile while you're around them and go home and be angry and pissed off or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Because that don't work. Because people don't want to work with you.
Not even just in stand-up. Like if you go in for a pitch meeting and stuff, these people know, like, if you want them to buy your show, you want to be someone that they want to be around and they want to work with.
I absolutely agree. Cool, man. So if you're tuning in right now, you listen to the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. In the studio, I got one of the dopest comedy moguls in LA, Sarah Mello. Glad you had a chance to come by a show, man. I'm so happy. Were you nervous being on the show? Because I told you, I set you up and said, I'm going to tell you business.
I wasn't. But then, right before you started, you were like, oh, I'm going to talk about you. I was like,
okay, cool. Good.
What's
I'm
he
glad,
say?
man. And if you didn't learn anything from today's show, man, I hope you know that just sometimes this journey of success, it's not a linear thing. Just being in position and learning and soaking it up and is part of the preparation. And sometimes those jobs that seem like detours are normally the things that are taking you to where you need to be. I used to be an accountant and I did sales. And because of that, I know how to talk to people outside of being a good stand-up. So learning how to talk to people is half the battle, which most comedians are good at what they do, but they're not good at talking to people. And comedy is all relationship. And if people like you, you'll always work. I know some of the most unfunniest, successful comedians you ever want to see, but people like them and they will always work. And that's how the business works. So, Mello, I appreciate you stopping by. Before we leave, I have a few questions I ask before we wrap it up. We don't really small talk here, so there's no right or wrong answer. And so that being said, let's get to it. If you can do coffee with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor?
Yeah.
Why Richard Pryor?
Someone I never got to meet that I wish I did.
Yeah.
And I love comedy. I love comedy stories, and I would imagine he has some good ones.
Yeah. I feel like I met him or maybe saw him because I remember when I first moved to LA, it might have been Dave. I can't remember what it was, but I was in the belly room and there's like a little green room in the belly room. There was a hole in the wall where you can see the main stage of the Comedy Store. And I think it might have been David Chappelle. I don't know why I think Richard wasn't doing prior. He wasn't doing comedy when I got here, but I saw David Chappelle when he first came back from Africa. And it was like 10 comedians looking through this big old hole in the wall at the main stage watching Dave Chappelle come back. And it was the most amazing, probably one of those amazing moments of my career. Like, man, like I remember when Dave came back. Like it was such a dope thing. Like 10 comedians with their head just stuck through the wall looking at it like kids, man. It was so dope. Okay, cool. Next question. What sound or smell reminds you of home? Mama house.
Oh, home. Oh. I don't know. This isn't home, but it's weird. I love the smell of like paints and gasoline because My
Meth?
father, no.
I'm just playing. I'm sorry. All right.
No,
sorry.
my father, they run an auto body shop. So anything that smells like, I've always
exhaust.
loved the smell of, like gasoline.
She said, I love the smell of exhaust.
Paint and stuff. I was
Turn on. Turn on.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of being
Paint and gasoline. That's hysterical. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah.
With that 57 Chevy and the tore up muffler. All right, cool. That's my favorite one. What's one thing you learned about yourself from your last relationship?
Yeah, that I don't show like my emotions. So
Casting director face.
Yeah, I don't. So people think I don't like them, and it's something I have to
So your
work on.
person thinks you don't like them too?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a hard one to work on because you don't know.
Yeah. And you know what? How I realized it?
How?
Well, one, the person always said it.
Yeah,
but
that's a good
two,
start.
my mom and brother came to visit me, and I was like, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" And they'd be like, "I don't care. I don't know. I don't." And then I would take them to do stuff or suggest stuff, and it was like, yeah, okay. And I felt like they weren't having fun. Yeah. And I snapped, and I was like, speak up. I was like, this is your life. This is your vacation. Yeah. You spent the money to come here. What do you want to do? And as I was saying all this stuff to them, and I was like, I can't even tell if you like what I'm taking you to do. And as I said it, I was like, oh, that's what he was talking about. I'm the same way.
Yeah. Household culture.
Yeah, I was in
Your normal was not normal.
With friends, and they were all like taking fun, and they were like, "Are you having fun?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." Yeah. And I guess I just don't show it. So
does it come out when you drink?
I'm a happy drunk. Yeah.
But does it come out like the thing that you're hiding? Does it come out when you're more expressive when you drink?
Oh, apparently not, because I've drunk around guys.
Hilarious. You need to fix that. Fix that casting face. That RBF casting face is what you got. All right, cool. And then last question. What advice would you give a stand-up comedian in this climate? Because social media is a thing now. It wasn't just to do a late night spot and then you get on anymore. Like what advice would you give a young comic who's trying to get on and feels frustrated?
Don't take anything personally, like with anything. Again, like thinking a booker or anybody doesn't like you or something. One, even if they don't, who cares? There's going to be another one who will, that could change your career. And not even just comedians. I think people in general, just create your own thing, create your own way. If you don't like how something's going, I mean, that's what I did. If I didn't like how I was being treated working at a comedy club or how comedy club was doing things, I was like, cool, I'll just do my own shows. So I think you're not going to like the way the industry is. Yeah. But it's like a video game. Like, you don't have to like it, but if you can figure it out, maybe get some cheat codes and shortcuts, right, you'll be fine. So it's just figure it out, create your own things, and not taking the advice of others, because what worked for one person isn't necessarily going to work for you. I know comics that aren't even on social media that are doing really well.
You're absolutely right. So I always have this phrase too. I just feel like there is no formula to comedy or success.
Ooh. But write. Always write. Huh? Keep writing.
Keep writing?
That's my advice to comics. It's like, always write. Always write new. Just write. Yeah. Whenever you have free time. I don't like when comics tell me that. I'm like, how are you ever bored? You should be writing. Right.
I was going to say, for me, I felt like if God told me everything I had to go through to become who I am, I probably would have said, I'm good. I pass on that. If you knew everything that you had to go through and sacrifice to become who you are, would you still do what you do? Would you still say yes to it?
If you had told me ahead of time.
Yeah, that dating's going to suck.
Oh, I always say if my mom ever found out what I've been through, she would have a heart attack. Yeah? Yeah. But, I'm here. I'm fine. Yeah. So, but if I would have known, maybe not.
Dope. And so I think, too, when they start this huge comedy museum, which sound like a great idea, you should put your couch in there.
Seriously?
Like, don't ever sell it and just hold on to it. I tell people from
now on, if people are going to, can I come stay with you for a bit? I'm sleeping on the couch and they can have my bed.
That's so funny.
Something about that couch, it's good. It's a good couch.
Hilarious. I'm scared to smell it, though.
I get it washed
Comedian
a lot.
funk. They smell like depression and broken dreams.
Sleep on these blankets.
Struggle.
And I get it washed a lot.
Oh, Jesus, that's so disgusting. So listen, man, if you're tuning in, you listen to the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. In the studio today, we have my really, really great friend, Sarah Mello. Before we get out of here, what is anything you got going on you want to promote? And how can we contact you?
Yeah, just my shows. I mean, my personal accounts are Sarah J Mello, SarahJmello. And then, of course,
Jello. Doesn't even feel the same saying it anymore, right?
And then
no, it feels weird. All right, cool.
Mellow Comedic, MELLOCOMEDIC.
Yeah.
That's where I promote most of my shows. I promote on both, I guess, but mostly Mellow Comedic.
Yeah. Anything you're producing right now that's coming out soon that we can look out for?
Every Tuesday, Santa Monica, I have my show with Neal Brennan. Mellow Comedic once a month. Yeah, of course.
Dope.
That's a new material show.
Oh, awesome.
So we have people work out their new jokes. Then, of course, all my Mellow Comedics, I'll be posting about them. And then we just wrapped up. Well, we're about to start shooting Laff Tracks for True TV.
Oh, yeah.
So doing that.
What are you doing on that? You booking for that?
Yeah, I was like talent producer.
Okay, yeah, they're going to blow you up for that. They're going to blow you up. I did it last season. It was really fun.
Yeah, it should be fun.
The vibe was great. It was shot so well.
This month.
You said it was in Chicago?
We're going to Chicago this month.
Oh, dope. Yeah. It was really, you're going to shoot the whole season in Chicago?
The stand-up. Yeah, the stand-up portion of it. I think the sketches they'll do here.
Oh, that's funny because last year they did everything.
Yeah, a new production company took over. It's my first, so that's why I.
But it looked good last year. Okay, I'm probably above my pay grade.
I don't know why that.
It's probably above my pay grade. But I'll leave it alone.
My friend's company actually is doing it. Matt, he's great. So that's how I got involved this year. And yeah, they just wanted to shoot it differently. Chicago audience, they thought would be great. So they're shooting the stand-up portion out there. But I believe the sketches I don't know where they're doing those to be.
Yeah, same host too?
Yes, Cypher Sounds.
Let's go,
really
Cypher.
Good friend of mine. Yeah.
Shout out to Cypher Sounds.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So that being said, man, I'm your host, Comedian Ron G. Please follow me on everything, Comedian RONG. Also, I have a really dope podcast I do called the 2-Piece Podcast, the number 2 PIECE podcast. I think it's one of the dopest things I've ever done in my entire life and career. But check it out, 2-Piece Podcast. And if you're in LA, every Sunday I host at the world famous Laff Factory, Chocolate Sundays comedy shows, the dopest, longest running comedy show in LA. 7 o'clock, 9:30 show. 7 o'clock, 9:30 show. And please follow me on everything. I have my 30-minute Comedy Central special coming out this fall. And I'm also shooting my Nickelodeon TV show, 20 episodes. I go by the name of Lewis playing a dad. I'm pretty excited about that. And I got a movie coming out called 2 Minutes of Fame with Jay Farrow, Cat Williams, and Kiki Palmer. So that being said, please follow us, CPU Podcast. Follow us, CPU Podcast. And if you happen to be in LA and you're looking to laugh, we also have this thing called Comedy Pop-Up, which is a lot of the hottest comedy up-and-coming comics on the show. Comedy Pop-Up comedy shows all over LA, man. And Paul, great job today, sir. You were on point with the buttons. Appreciate what you're doing. I like how you just cut the kids off and they just having a good time. That being said, thank you for joining us, man. Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. Yeah.